Honestly, that's what End of the Week is. Look at End of the Week. They are that shining example of what staying true to your fucking core, constantly providing value, can do to keep you in a situation where 30 years later, 20 years later, I was doing really bad math there. 20 something years later, that's better math, right? You're still in the game, kind of rocking it and being, if anything, bigger than ever. Like, literally just dropping a $5,000 contest with Diesel and shit. That's not like a small flex. That was a, oh, say word. Oh.
Yeah, I love that. Love that level up.
Like, that was like, okay. And the way they leveraged Instagram and then brought it to the big real life connect, like, that to me is the future. But the thing is, I feel like it's not like it's like what it was. And I think that's going to be the biggest problem. That's the problem I face with everybody, is that nostalgia is a pain in the ass. But to an 18-year-old that'll never know what we grew up with, they'll never experience it, and they'll never think of it like that. Art's going to change.
That's true.
I know that because I've met 17-year-olds with fans that have sold shit on Bandcamp, never done a show in their life, and never have to. They never have to learn to perform their songs. Like, just imagine that. There is a reality where this is a viable career path. Yeah. I know on End of the Week, this is probably like a sacrilege claim to make, but there's now a viable career path where you'll never have to spit your song one time in life. Just over.
Yeah, you're right. That touches on so many of the things that we're talking about right now. And then you have to ask yourself, like, what needs to be integrated in order for things to remain coherent? Like, because some things you can lose and it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, but what about a given tradition? Say we're just limiting the discussion to hip hop as such. What needs to be integrated as it transforms along with everything else that transforms, and what can be let go of and have it still be what it is? You know, like I did an interview, shout out to Nia, who's this German artist, and it's like he's similar to what you're talking about. He also has a podcast, and he does his like, that's one thing he does. He also does raps on YouTube and videos and stuff like that. And yeah, he's not performing live. It's like it didn't even enter his head to have to do it, you know, and which is not in and of itself an evil. I'm not saying it is, but if all of the richness in my own memory banks of like this experience of mine is from like meeting people, like real people at shows, and being like plugged into this community that isn't just a numbers game of like, how do I monetize my YouTube and like make it that way, you know, how do YouTube, I crush the numbers and get views? Like,
in defense of YouTube got a community vibe. In terms of
it's not about knocking the platform. I'm just, I'm saying the question is it real community or not? And yes. I'm not saying it is or isn't.
I'm saying I can answer in defense of YouTube. Kind of, through the comments. It's actually really weird. And this isn't just like, so, I mean, I did YouTube heavy. Like, since 2016, I've published over 1,000 videos at this point. And while never did I ever get successful, the only reason I still do it is that community. Like, there's homeboy Lindell Williams. I swear he's commented on every videos. It's almost a meme within my little 5 to 10 person community. But like, over the years, there's people whose comments where if their name showed up, I'd know who they are. Like, they're not just names, because they tell you about themselves through the comments. And if you make the effort to engage with your community on any platform that has comments, you kind of get exactly what you're looking for if you're into that version of it. Because let's be real, I love the IRL, but I'm the kind of guy that could have probably spent money on Second Life if I had known that existed once upon a time. I just didn't. Like, because like, I don't really like I never went to End of the Week till it was a Zoom. Like, that's the reality of it. Now I'm more inclined to go to real life shit because like, it was weird. It was like getting into this digital community gave me this comfort that now has me wanting to be in the real life. So like,
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
I'm just saying that even without seeing face to face or in real life, as long as you're actively talking to the individuals, or like my girlfriend follows this Madison and Shelby people, they do eco-friendly stuff on YouTube, and she's one of their Maddlebees, and they answer her. Like, she comments and they know her, and it now, is it kind of parasocial? Yeah, but so is like honestly how the relationships are in the real life world too, a little bit in this world. But like, it's still sincere. Like, when I met this guy after 4 years of commenting on him, that was a big moment for me. I'll never for the rest of my life forget the first time I met Ismail Gadamsi, because that dude had been there forever in my comments. Came to Twitch, is part of the chats. I don't know if he's here now. He got a job and he's less free. But like, he's around and he was just there, and it's like knowing that like he's now, it kind of is people I want to meet in other places. So it's like weird, but like it can be that. It really can be. I'm not saying it always is. I'm saying you have to nurture it, kind of back to what you were saying earlier. But that's like my profession. That's my day job, is nurturing communities on the internet. That's what I do for a living. So like, it's kind of what I've tried to do. I'm very bad at promo and all that shit, so I'm not very famous. But like,
I think you're a great example of like the ideal that we're talking about. Is like, you're using it as a tool. You recognize the unique considerations that belong to it as a tool, and you're treating it kind of like a garden, like a gardener. You're cultivating an ecosystem, and that is a very positive thing, because you can make ecosystems in virtual space just as you can make them in physical space. I think it's just a matter of, can we stay cognizant of that? Can the majority of us continue to think that way as it becomes not like the thing to the side of our world, but becomes the center of our world, which is the way that things are trending, because we sure managed to mess up the ecosystems of physical reality pretty well, if we're speaking ecologically. Can we like be good stewards, I guess, of like the virtual ecosystems that we're building as we build them,
I mean, young people seem to give me hope. That's all I can say. I don't think old people are going to treat it right, but young people know it's lit, and young people really be about it in a different way, especially because they're like, oh, we got to deal with these problems. So they're like really ecologically focused, anti-billionaire, a lot of these things. Like when I talk to, and then you know what's really cool is young musicians, in my experience, are collective motherfuckers. They're not individualistic. And I was reading the book Homo Deus by the guy who wrote Sapiens, whose name I can't remember. And he was kind of describing how like the trend is almost post-humanism and post-liberalism, in the sense that it's been, and how the algorithm is going to become a driving force of the future of all humanity as the machine becomes a trusted thing, and we as humans are going to become more collectivist because it just makes more sense, because now the computer knows better and we're going to trust the computer. And I see that kind of shit happening too with like the little ones, because they recognize the power of numbers over the one, in a way where I feel like I struggle with that. I want to be the man, and I don't know how to give up and like fully just play my role to be part of the movement. That's my biggest issue with all the activism stuff, is my ego gets in the way a lot.
It's an interesting point you make, that the idea that folks who have grown up with social media as part of their life, as one of the main parts of their life, are more collectivist by nature. I would be curious. I'll be curious to see if that plays out, and curious. Yeah, just that's an interesting thought. That's a really interesting thought.
I know a bunch of little ones. When I say little ones, 18 to 20 somethings, little ages, they be hopping around in 32-person group chats, creating support groups, while me and my old man haters are being old man haters on Facebook. I'm not so much a hater no more, but I say it in the sense that I spent like the better part of my rap career being that. So the fuck can I really, it's not accusatory, but it's just awareness. That's why I don't know, like, just.
I mean, do you think it's the case that collectivism can work in two directions? Collectivism can be very mutually supportive and therapeutic. Collectivism can also be fascistic.
I think.
So does the structure of it, the structure of it, can it go either way? Is that kind of how it is?
Yeah, I think it can, but I guess it's out of necessity too. I mean, let's be real. 40-year-olds in Montreal could cop a house a lot easier than 30-year-olds could, and 20-year-olds have no chance. So now that you're not even considering property, what do you do with your life? And I wonder how much the actual ability to own a home is correlated to all that. That one's a huge metric. I think it's overlooked in a lot of people's focus in life, but if you got to squat up and side hustle because there's no jobs and you can't cop a house, then it's almost like by virtue of the world that they're in, they're going to play it different. Whereas we were all told we were special, pushing some superstar shit from the time we was 10. And I think that shit kind of played into how we approach it. So I don't think we really do collectivism. I think we do faux collectivism on Facebook, where we like each other's statuses and virtue signal. But like when you try to get 10 people to show up at the park to do some real life shit, it's not real.
It's an interesting way of looking at it. I like that. I like that take.
I'm just basing shit on real life without saying names or anything. But I mean, for me, because you asked a question I thought was super interesting, is what should we do? And it is have IRL hubs. I know with COVID that is super complicated depending on where you at, but end of the week is still this physical location wherever they're at, almost like a church where you're supposed to congregate, bringing it back to the church point. So if you take it from that, you almost want to have that space. And I think that what you do is you create spaces where older people like us create studios that give access to younger people who don't have access to the money slash technology to do bigger scale shit. Like, say, open a VR space. Nobody can fuck with VR, right? But VR is where money's going to be at real soon. Create the ecosystem with the community. Because, yo, I guarantee you them little ones will be learning how to do that Unity coding shit 10 times as fast as you will. So it's really about us in our age group taking on that mentorship responsibility that used to be really owned by them 30-year-olds and is highly neglected by 30-year-olds these days. I'm putting that on the 30-year-olds out there. But it is to create spaces, little like hubs, like where people are forced to go socialize, but do it in a way where you're collectively focused on content, because then you'll have your reasons to be together and you'll accidentally accomplish both things. But just learn from the mistakes of the YouTuber houses and shit. Don't get corporate sponsorships involved. Do it yourselves. Do it low key. And be satisfied with the idea of 100,000 a year instead of 1,000,000. I don't know. That's the part that baffles me. Like, I'm like, yo, I could get like, hold on, I can make 50K a year off of music, bro. That's wild, you know? I'm in Canada. People do not get the kind of money people get in the States of music. But, like, I mean, it's possible. It's just significantly geographically speaking, our cities are so spaced out. We cannot do weekend tours like you can in a lot of ways. It's kind of like in big city kind of situations. So, like, but either way, the point is people have these, like, ridiculous aspirations of, like, superstardom. And, like, I don't know. And I don't think the little ones do. I think the little ones see how fake it is. Like, do you really want to be Drake? I don't want to be Drake. That looks scary. Looks terrible. Parts of it look dope, but like other parts of it look miserable. And I think the little ones are more like, nah, I kind of want to be happy. This is my projections and thoughts. This is not like, I can't back it up.
I had never thought about that, or I never thought as distinctly as the way you're articulating it about how the whole stardom desire structure for folks who are like, 18 or so is radically different as a result of the different mode of transmission that they've had.
I mean, I just feel like they're more satisfied with like it. Like, I mean, they're doing it. That's what it is. It's about getting the moments for the gram, you know, in a sense, living in, you know what, that one thing I can tell you about TikTok is TikTok has made me try to do more things in my life. This is actually positive. You believe it or not, TikTok is going to make my girlfriend way more happy with how I choose to spend time, because we're going to leave the apartment and I have to go do things because I got to do it for the Tokyo. And it sounds corny, but I don't look at it like a negative. I look at it like an opportunity for the algorithm to force me to break habits of sitting in my room 7 days a week.
Well, do you think those habits would exist? Here's a way of putting it. And again, this is not pushback in a pointed way. It's just for the sake of conversation. There's a French writer from the mid 20th century named Jacques Ellul. He's actually the guy who coined the phrase "think locally" or "think globally, act locally." You know that phrase? Like, it's like an ecological phrase.
Yes.
Think globally, act locally. He's the guy who coined that. But anyway, he's got this book called The Technological Society that I just finished a little while ago. And one of the theses of it is that one of the problems with technology is that it always is going to create problems that other technology will then have to solve. You mentioned that it's like okay, if it weren't for TikTok, you'd be more prone to like sitting in your room for 7 hours a day. But would you be sitting in your room for 7 hours a day in the first place if it were not the case that the technological situation that you dwell in right now has brought you to that place?
Yo, I'm the kind
of, if we were living in a radically different societal structure that was where ecology was the center rather than technology being the center. If we could oppose those two things just for a second for the thought experiment, if like contact with the material conditions of our existence, let's say the food that we grow and the animals that we depend on, the other animals in our ecosystem, if that was the center of our lives, none of us would be sitting. None of us would feel like we probably wanted to sit for 7 hours in a room a day anyway, in the first place. And so TikTok, in that sense, he would say would be an instance of technology fixing another technology. It's kind of like when you have to take a certain kind of mental medication and then you need another type of mental medication to fix the side effects of that medication, and then another one in turn. It's also like the apps that we have are like, here's an app so that you don't spend too much time on your phone. I mean, what a paradox is that, you know?
It's an
So,
amazing one. I
you
would
know,
just say, like, with myself, I hear what you're saying, and you're probably right. I do think if it's ecologically focused, maybe I would be out there doing some shit. But in my dream state, I'd be the dude that was reading books all day. Like, fuck all of y'all. I got me a book.
right, right.
And that's still, like, to me, like, I don't Kindle. Like, everything. I read everything that's not the bottom shelf on that shit. And, for me, it's like a passion thing. I have to hold the book. I don't actually necessarily need the technology to ignore the world. I just need any kind of entertainment to ignore the world. And I do think that since the printing press, which arguably is technology, so to your point, that's a technological innovation. So I think it makes my point a little more moot. I'll take that back. If that was
Yeah. It also wasn't, yeah, it wasn't pointed specifically at your situation either. It was,
I
and
just
it
thought
wasn't even
about
my,
it.
it's not my theory. Yeah, it's just, but yeah, it's interesting to think about in those terms. It's like, yeah, because I agree. And it comes back to so many of the things that we're talking about. It's like, the tool is amazing. It's
Because if
fucking
there's no
great to be able
books,
to,
right, then we're not going to sit there. Because if you look at a book like a result of technology, then you're right. The habit doesn't get formed. If I want the knowledge, I got to go to church or some shit. That's the only way I'm going to hear some whatever, or Town Square, or whatever the fucking version it was. And so, yeah, you're right. I'd probably be out in a field doing some field shit and not really thinking about sitting down all day.
yeah. Well, you still have culture, but it would be, if we go back to the ancient precedent, it would be oral culture. It would be transmitted by,
Which way?
by the singer, by the griot, the shaman, and your participation in it would be communal, which
Mm.
I'm not saying even that we need to put that on a pedestal arbitrarily, but I do think that there's elements of it that we lose in this modality,
Yo, but even like oral songwriting, okay, like, because if you look at old ass poetry that was all done by oral stuff, it's simpler and more repetitious than when they get to writing and can take their time with their thoughts, which is kind of like what you were saying about flows and shit, and how like almost the way people think being translated. But if you run it back and there's no writing, the way people think changes. And now you need mnemonic tricks to remember your long ass poem, so you write it in a way to like link it in like that. Your shit's wild. I love this stuff. History's cool. And like
Same.
philosophy's cool. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
I'm with it. Absolutely. It would be strange for me to say otherwise. I do have to go in like 4 minutes
Yeah.
because at 9 I gotta go link up with Hilla. But
No, that's okay, man. Usually for this we try to end it around 9, so I was gonna kind of sort of
right
move
on.
towards the wrap up soon.
Cool. But listen, it's been a pleasure. I enjoyed talking to you just as much, actually even more than the first time, because we got to get a little bit deeper into stuff. So
Yeah, it was real fun, man. I mean, your brain is like a wonderful blessing, man. I feel like everybody out there should follow your shit, even if like first the music's catchy. It's like, I don't know, stylistically maybe you're not in the mood for it, but like it's good earworm shit. So like you're not in for a bad time with the music, and the thought-provoking shit's cool. And to have a dude that's gonna break down Stoics is like this and like that, and and it's kind of got like that kind of engaging flow that keeps you kind of, and it's really fun. And then you got the words flying all cool. I like it a lot, and I highly, highly, highly fucking recommend that people check you out for real. Cause like, man, like I was impressed. Like that's why, like when I saw you get the ground, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like it's really like a full experience, and I think people can benefit from it, and it's inspiring because I think it's like a direction and a lane that's just getting bigger as people realize you can learn and not do it boring. And I commend you for
I
like
appreciate that.
pursuing that shit. And I'm not gonna lie, between you and Gila, I have learned some really random ecological facts.
Nice. That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Oh, and my girlfriend likes your cactus well.
Oh, nice. I love that. Yeah. These cacti were made by Anya Sapojnikova of the House of Yes.
That's cool.
All over the apartment
But
to
yo,
match my cactus right here.
But before we like wrap up and everything, I just want to give a big thanks again at end of the week for hosting this, for giving us the chance to be here. It's amazing. It's one of the cooler flexes of my life to be involved with them. You can follow them at honestly eodub.com. Go there, all the shit's there. It's way easier than trying to remember what's what. And they on all the platforms, and you can follow them on all your respective stuff, and you should show some love because they up to everything, and it's really fucking cool to see it if you into that hip hop for real. Follow Nate on all this stuff. Do you have any last words for the people?
No, just shout out to everybody. Do I need to share my socials and stuff, or is that already on there?
Yeah, it's gonna be like links.
Yeah,
but
heads up for Epicurean song in the next couple days.
Awesome. So, yo, thank you again for coming through. Appreciate it. And, yo, live long and prosper, everybody.
Peace out.